bird on a tree. I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful, you and me. We're meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free.
Hello Zeeblies, today I'm going to sit down and do this Q&A for y'all. I got a lot of really good questions. I am outside, it's a beautiful day and I have better lighting outside than I do inside. So sorry if you hear like birds, or there are some people working on the street, down the street, so sometimes you can hear their equipment. So hopefully it won't be too loud and you'll still be able to hear me. And if I'm looking down, I'm just looking at my phone for the questions. Now, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Kelly, and my husband and I have 3 children. We have Savannah, who's 13, Cole, who is 7, and Sydney, who is 5. How I deal with, as a mother, how do I deal with having children with health issues? And then she also asked if, because I have health issues also, how do I deal with being a mother with children with health issues and health issues of my own, mentally and physically. When it comes to my children, I have always, from really the beginning, you know, Savannah knows no difference. Savannah doesn't know what it's like to be a normal kid. And I say that loosely because there's no such thing. But a kid with no health issues. So for her, I guess we have always just had the mindset that things could be worse. You know, things could be so much worse. And so that is kind of the mindset I have with Savannah, and that's kind of mindset Savannah has. And it's funny because Savannah has that mindset, she has that mindset with her friends too. So when her friends are complaining or whatever, she'll say, you know, could be worse. The one friend was complaining one time about something stupid, just being a preteen complaining, and she looked at him. This was pretty close to the time she got her feeding tube. She looked at him and she goes, "You don't have a feeding tube. It could be worse." I mean, that's kind of the mindset that Savannah has. And for the most part, it makes being a parent of a child with medical issues easier, because she doesn't know the difference. She kind of doesn't know what she's missing in a way. She is starting to realize it because she is now a teenager, and that is throwing a few issues in, and so that makes things a little bit harder. But you know, I always just have to tell her, you know, when you have medical issues, and I speak on the EDS side and the pain side and things like that, you know, you have to take it day by day, sometimes hour by hour. So when I can see she's struggling, then I let her lay around. I let her do whatever she wants to do to feel better. So maybe she has more screen time that day than I normally allow, or is lazy, as in other people's terms. I don't care, because there are days you have to take it hour by hour. And as a mother, it's hard. It is hard to see your kid struggling. I can't tell you how many times we've been up in Cincinnati and she's in the hospital and I'm about in tears, but I have to hold it together, and I'm texting my husband going, I'm heartbroken. There's nothing I can do about the pain that she's in. They're doing the best they can, and there is nothing I as the mother can do. And that's all you want to do for your children, is to make it better. So there are some days I just have to breathe and say, we're doing the best we can. We'll handle it however we need to handle it, and leave it at that, because that's all you can do. I just do my best to find the positives in everything. Now, as physically, that's hard some days. When I'm having issues, it's hard. You know, if it's a day that a couple of days ago, I was struggling. And I was in so much pain. I was nauseous. I didn't feel good. Every time I moved, it hurt. And I just said, you know what? The dishes in the kitchen, they're going to have to wait a day or two. Or my house is going to have to wait a day or two. And on those days, my kids have started to kind of recognize them, I think. And so they'll come climb up on the couch with me and say, Mama, can we have family time? Let's watch a movie. And that's what we'll do. So there are some days that my kids get more screen time than maybe they should. But you know, you do what you have to do. And I've learned to just accept it. I've learned to not worry about what other people think, because in some other people's eyes, they may think that we do nothing and that I just lay around, or that I don't do anything. You know, I've been told before that I'm not a good mother or a good wife because, you know, my house wasn't clean, and or my kids wear their pajamas all day long. And I learned to just push it away, because I have to. Because if I hold on to it, not only am I going to feel worse physically, but mentally. You know, I have to pray and say, you know, if it's, give me strength. God, give me strength. Help me. Tell me what I should do today. Should I push through? Because sometimes pushing through does make you feel better, but other times it doesn't. And so I just, it's a day by day thing. And that goes for all my kids, because yes, Sydney and Savannah have EDS, but actually Cole has a kidney disease too. Now, he very rarely has issues with his kidneys. He has something called multicystic dysplastic kidney disease, so he only has one kidney. He was born with two kidneys, but his one kidney had cyst, and the cyst kind of thrived on the kidney, so it ate the kidney away, and then once it had no more kidney to pretty much eat away, it was gone. So he, for the most part, you would never know he has a kidney disease. But there are times that, rarely, but there are times that he doesn't feel well. I mean, he gave me a scare not too long ago because he was complaining of kidney pain and he couldn't pee and stuff like that. And so, you know, every kid is different, even if they both have the same diagnosis. Sydney and Savannah are completely different with their issues, and honestly, I'm their like in between. I have some issues from Sydney that Sydney has, and I have some issues that Savannah has, and I'm kind of a mixture of theirs. And I think part of the hard part is mine's getting worse as I get older, but you just learn to adapt. You learn to adapt, and you know, sometimes you just have to push through. You know, Robert and I are getting ready to take a trip in a few months, and I am so excited, but I am a little nervous because I know my health also. We're going with a large group of friends, and so there are some things that make me nervous about it because of my health, but I'm not going to let it keep me from going on an amazing trip with my husband. You know, he and I haven't ever really had a trip away. We're going to Jamaica, and we've never flown. We've never been out of the States. And so this is kind of a big deal for us, and I could not be more excited in those days that, you know, I need to work out, because staying fit is important for people with EDS also, and I don't want to. But kind of that is what's giving me the push to, because the more I work out, the more whether it's just going on the treadmill or doing the stationary bike or a full workout, I feel so much better afterwards. And so your body really needs it. You just have to find that limit. You have to find what is too much for your body and what is not. Here's another one. Why does Savannah have a NG tube? And is she gonna continue to have it or have a feeding tube placed? This is kind of a difficult answer, I guess. Savannah has a feeding tube because when she got it, she was severely underweight and malnourished. She couldn't eat. She was constantly backed up with stool, and she, nutrition-wise, was doing really, really bad. So they gave her the feeding tube. We learned fairly quickly on that her body knew what to do with the nutrition when it got it, which was great. So she worked for about a year on orally eating enough. Now, if you have a colon that is backed up with stool or whatever, if you're constipated, you don't feel like eating. You don't want to eat. Your stomach hurts. You're bloated. You just feel blah. Vanna now is eating a fairly good amount. She is not eating the full amount she should. They wanted her to do about, they said, what was it, 1,800 to 2,200 calories. She's probably on that like 16 to 1,800 calories, but she is sustaining her weight. The reason she still has it is because for your colon to properly work, you have to be hydrated. For whatever reason, she cannot get enough fluids down here. Now, whether it is laziness, I've had people tell me they think it's mental, whatever, she can't get it done. Realistically, she can't get the fluids down here. Now, let me explain. They want her to have 80 to 100 ounces of fluids a day. On a good day, I get 20 to 30 down her orally. So, for her colon that doesn't already properly work to work at its best, she's got to have fluids. So, she gets fluids every night. Now, is she going to have a surgical feeding tube placed? I don't know. We go up in a couple of weeks to Ohio to discuss that. We will be discussing two different procedures, but one surgery. Discussing a Malone, which is kind of like a cecostomy, and a G-tube. So, I don't know. You know, she can't live with an NG tube forever. So, that is why we have to discuss it. The GI doctor is waiting to find out if she's going to have this Malone placed, because if she is, then kind of what I understand is she'll probably get the feeding tube, a surgical feeding tube placed. Thankfully, it can be reversed. So if we get her colon situated, working the way we need it to work, then maybe we can get the fluids down her and everything will start to work together. I would rather her not have it, obviously, as a mother, but at this point, she's had an NG tube for almost 2 years, and we have to do something. So that is why she has it. That is where we are at with, is she going to get a surgical one or not? Alright, I have another one. Here's another one. It says, how is Savannah doing back to school? She's doing good. She's exhausted. When she was homeschooled and homebound, you know, I would let her sleep 9, 10, sometimes even 11 o'clock. Now she has to get up between 5 and 5:30, so she's tired, she's worn out. She feels like the new kid, because she is, even though she knows several people because she was in middle school before she went homeschool for a year. She's doing good. She is adjusting to a new schedule. different type of work, and figuring things out, being a teenager with medical issues at school. So she's doing well. She's a really, really good friend there, Kylie, who I told Kylie, I said, make sure she drinks while she's at school, because that is one concern, is she's not eating as much as she was when she was home, because she doesn't have the convenience of a microwave and a kitchen and time to fix a meal for lunch and whatnot. So she is coming home starving from school, which is good because she's eating really, really well for dinner and even like a good snack before she goes to bed. So it's good. She's adjusting. She's doing great though. She's loving it. She missed all her friends very, very much. So she's doing good. There is some, I think I'm going to have to kind of contact her teachers just to explain the more GI side of things to her when it comes to bathroom breaks and things like that. That being 13, she's a little embarrassed of, and she's kind of made some comments, and so I'm probably going to very quietly just email her teachers to explain a little bit more, just so they understand her situation and her health. Because although, yes, I can see the feeding tube, I haven't really had time to sit down and really talk with them. I do have her, I guess, last IEP meeting on the 13th, which is Monday, and so I'll be able to talk with them then too. So, but she's doing good. She's just tired. She told me this morning she was ready to sleep in. I said, today's Thursday, I said, you only have one more day and you can sleep in. So she's doing good though. She's loving it. Okay, this one is asking, says, can I ask you a question? Is it worth keeping on persisting with getting an EDS diagnosis? That is in my opinion, yes. And I've even kind of been fighting with it for myself. There's a couple of reasons. One is insurance. You know, for me, insurance covers different things when you have an EDS diagnosis because they understand why they need to cover what they're covering. Two, if it's a kid, school. I feel it's important for school. You know, if you have joint issues, you have kids that are in PE, things like that, they need to make accommodations for them. One of the biggest things I always got was, Savannah is diagnosed with ADHD. But part of that too was her fidgeting, constantly moving. I mean, you see me sitting here and constantly moving. When you have joint issues, sitting in one spot for a long time, it hurts. It's difficult. So sometimes I've read a thing saying that a lot of children with EDS are diagnosed with ADHD because they think they're hyperactive, when it could just be that they need to move a lot because their joint hurt. That is your body's natural way of telling you to adjust. So when it comes to children, school-age children, whether it's teenagers or younger, I think it is, because there are lots of stuff out there to help you. Therapies, you know, you have to think about school, sports. There are accommodations that need to be made. And so being persistent, it's hard. I pushed and pushed and pushed for a good 3 years, especially with Savannah. And I mean, at one point, I am one that if I don't agree with the doctor, I'll smile, I'll say okay, and I'll go home and not do it. What's the point in arguing or, you know, looking, I guess, non-compliant? I don't know. You understand your children more than sometimes the doctor does. So that is always have been. When Savannah got really, really sick with the whole malnourishment stuff, her heart was affected. When her heart became affected, and her pediatrician just kept telling me, Kelly, be patient. We just have to get her to Cincinnati. You know, he was the one that was constantly reminding me, be patient. We just have to get to Cincinnati. Because at this point, we were seeing a chronic doctor here that was a money doctor, in my opinion. And it was awful. I mean, I was begging for the feeding tube until we figured things out here back home. and this doctor was the one that was supposed to make the decision and wouldn't. I've always been one to just keep my mouth shut and go on. And this specific doctor, I think he made Savannah come in every week for weight checks, urine tests and stuff. And I think every appointment I left in tears. And at one point I screamed at him and I was like, look, I just want my baby well. I want my baby to be okay. And he didn't care. He didn't care. But I do think it's important to be persistent. You know, it's one of those things when you don't have a diagnosis with EDS, because it's an invisible illness, you just look like the crazy person. And even to this day, sometimes I get that. I've even had the comment thrown at me with Savannah that, oh, I'll say she has EDS. That diagnosis has been thrown around a lot lately. I keep hearing that diagnosis a lot. And then when he messed with her, he actually accidentally popped her patella out of socket. And he's like, whoop, yep, she has it. So I think it's important to be persistent because of that. And also the mental aspect. There were times that I would ask myself, I'm like, am I imagining these things going on with her? Or am I imagining anything's going on with me? Is this really not going on? Like, am I crazy? Am I losing my mind? But with Cincinnati, they have always said, no, that's the EDS. The first time we were there, when she was in the hospital for 5 days, and I would say, we're dealing with this. Yeah, that's part of EDS. So I think it's persistent. I think it's important to be persistent. It's hard. I'm not going to lie. It is hard to be persistent. And there are times you want to just give up. But I think it's important to be persistent with it, to get your diagnosis, to get the accommodations and the help that you or your child needs. And just understanding, you know, as you're reading things, you're like, okay, my child does have this diagnosis, so this is what we're dealing with. We're not crazy and losing our minds. Alrighty, so I think that's all the questions I saw. I would like to do like either like a monthly Q&A or maybe every couple of months. So if y'all keep sending questions in, then I'll kind of keep them written down, and if I get enough, then I'll do like a Q&A type thing. Because I do enjoy doing Q&As. I like to talk. But yeah, so thanks for watching this video, and don't forget to subscribe. I always hate saying that because I don't do YouTube to try and like get up there or whatever. Like, I started YouTube to get information out there about EDS because when my daughters were diagnosed with it, I could find very little on EDS. So that is the reason I started YouTube. So, however, the more subscribers, the more your videos are recommended, so it kind of goes both ways. But anyways, I hope y'all have a great weekend, and sorry, I'm looking out at, it's just pretty outside, so I hope y'all have a great weekend, and I will see y'all soon. Bye guys.